All right. Good evening, you guys. I'm just getting set up and sending out some notifications to let people know to join in. I do not have a guest today. I'm trying a few things differently this year. So I am probably not going to have a guest every single week because some weeks I really want to come to you with not just stories, but people who are able to get up on the stage and enjoy the conversation and to bring you guys tips and tools, not just antidotes. So I think it'll be good. It's going to be a little bit different. So I hope you like the format. Today, I am sharing with you guys some really cool information. It is something that I developed over the years as part of a system for people who have experienced trauma. And so that's where you are. So let's get into the show and we will talk about what it's all about. So let me introduce myself. My name is Deanna and you are in the Laughter After Trauma show. I am a speaker, educator, and coach that brings light and lightness to the heavy topic of trauma. I am a thriver after intimate partner violence, and because of that, I found some beauty and some laughter in healing. And I believe personally that we are all magic and that we have what we need inside of us already to heal and to be able to move forward from trauma. I also feel like we've all pretty much experienced some levels of trauma, especially after this pandemic. So, with that being said, in this show, I am talking either with everyday people who have overcome, or I'm bringing you tips and tools so that you can put those into your toolbox and use that in your life to apply what works for you. We're all different, so it's not all going to work, but it's giving you some tools and tips so that you can take that home, test it out, try it on, and see how it works for you. So, today's topic is this 5 keys to feeling at home within yourself. So, if you have ever experienced trauma, then you will often understand what it feels like to feel disconnected from yourself, to dissociate, to just not, you lose your presence. You're off somewhere else. And what happens is over time, especially if this situation lingers for a period of time and the trauma becomes complex trauma, then what happens is this becomes part of your being. You have learned a dance, you have learned a behavior that allows you, at the time, it was a coping strategy to keep you safe. But really, now what it's doing is it's allowing you to not be able to really tune in and align with who you are. And so, what is something or some things that we can do that will help bring us back into our bodies? Really, that's what it's about. And we've talked about on this show energy. We've also talked about on this show breath work. But these are very specific keys that I have started to notice not only in my own healing, but also when working with clients, that these have been a common thread through working with each and every client. Now, I approach them in a certain order, but that doesn't mean it has to be in that order. I've spoken with others and I've worked with clients, and they don't always do these keys or work on these keys in the same order as I will present them to you, which is the same order as I did. And it's because as we approach this and as we look at how the trauma has been internalized for us, we can have different ways, different things, different needs that are the current need that we have to have approached or worked on right now. Okay. So I use the acronym LAUGH. Okay. And the first key in that, the L, is let it go. So we're going to dive deeper into these in future weeks because I really want everybody to understand the full meaning. So we may talk a little bit more about this particular one today. But let it go is about forgiveness. And I understand that many of us have experienced some atrocious things. I mean, stuff that when you see somebody walking down the street, or you see somebody talking on here, or you look at people on social media and then you hear their story, you would never believe the things they've been through. I was just in a clubhouse room the other day speaking with somebody that I've spoken with several times, and she told her story of how when she was 18 and she was given the opportunity to make choices on her own, she left home and went to college very innocent because she grew up in a very fundamental household. Her dad was a pastor. And when she left home, she still had her virginity. But when she attended her first party in college, she was gang raped. Now, this is somebody I just would never have known this about her, ever. And so when we talk about letting it go, and I've talked to people who've experienced these levels of trauma, forgiveness is a really hard no for most people because they don't really understand what that means. And so I want to eliminate what the concept that we have in our head of that is. And it is a concept that we have the ability to exonerate someone, to be able to condone somebody's actions. But that is not what forgiveness is. It's not, we don't have the ability to right their wrong or to cover over their sins, so to speak. That's not for us, and that's not what forgiveness is about. When we say let it go, what we're really talking about is the impact that holding on to it is having in your life, because there's an impact that's happening for you. And so when we talk about that, we talk about this mainly turned inward. What does that mean for you? What does that look like for you so that you can gain inner peace? So I'm not going to dive too deep into it right now because I'm going to get through the 5 keys and then I'm going to come back to this one. And I would love to hear people's thoughts on this particular topic. So welcome, Pamela, Jocelyn, really. I just wanted to welcome you guys into the show. And if you're just joining, our first key here, we're talking about let it go and forgiveness. And this is just something that will start to bring you back into your body, make you feel at home within yourself. Okay, key number 2, because I'm using the acronym LAUGH, is A, and that is an attitude of gratitude. So when we think of gratitude, it's a big buzzword. Everybody's talking about it. People have gratitude journals. People are, and I'm not minimizing that. All of that is amazing things because anything that we put into practice on a regular basis that lifts and raises our frequency, our energy, and our positivity is always a good thing. It's good. So what does it mean to have the attitude of gratitude? What does that mean when you live in a state of gratitude? So this is about really recognizing and appreciating the things that you have and keeping your focus in the present. Again, a person who has experienced trauma often relives something that isn't happening in the present. But gratitude as a practice is something that pulls you back to the present. So 2 different areas of the brain are being impacted. And if you can make yourself aware and pull yourself into the present, which is in this prefrontal cortex, you are going to be able to stop some of those reels that are playing from playing. You're going to interrupt that pattern. Which brings me to the third step, which is the letter U, and that is undoing that negative critic, that negative reel. Undo that negative critic, that negative reel that is playing in your head constantly. So I know for me, when I was in the abusive situation and some of the other traumas that I went through, there was a reel that was playing in my head, a soundtrack that was going on, and it kept it. I don't, I'm going to age myself right now. I hear they're coming back, but cassette tapes, right? They played on a loop, and then it would click, and they would switch sides, and then they'd play, and then they would click, and they'd play, and So how do we eliminate that reel that's just playing over and over and over? How do we flip the tape? How do we remove it and put a new tape in? What do we have to do to undo that negative critic? Well, part of that gratitude practice will be a step in the direction that you need to go. But we also have to make a conscious effort. This is about really becoming aware and understanding consciously what it is that is playing. Think about your thoughts, because your thoughts are not you. There's something you have. And we have the tendency to believe our thoughts. But our thoughts aren't always true. And when you have this negative reel and this self-critic going on over and over again, 9 times out of 10, those thoughts are straight out lies. So if you've ever told yourself that you're not good enough, have you ever hit yourself in the head and I'm so stupid, why do I do this? I keep doing this. What is wrong with you? And you're talking to yourself. Does that sound familiar? Have you ever said these things? Those are the things that need to be interrupted, because what happens in our unconscious brain, our brain works to make it real. It starts to loop and try to create a reality from what it's being told. So if you've ever tried to step out of your comfort zone and do something that was just so big, it was something that you really, really wanted. It was something that you were like, oh, you know what? I mean, this is a dream of mine. I'm going to go after it. I'm going to do it. I don't care if it was a promotion, if it was learning how to do a handstand. I don't know. Whatever it is, if you've had a vision that you said, I'm going to go after this, and then you said to yourself, who do I think I am? Who do I think I am that I can do that? Those are the thoughts that are needing interruption. Because if you think of that thing that you want and you believe the thought, you start having that disconnect. That's why the comfort zone is where you stay. It's not that it's comfortable. Comfort zones are not comfortable. You stay there because it's safe. It's what you know. And being the boss and the leader of 20 people is not something you know. And so when you tell yourself, hey, I'm a good leader, I can be that boss, the loop in your head does not believe that, because you've already played enough loops for it to think that that's not a possibility. So by improving your self-talk and the conscious language that you use, you can start making shifts. Those shifts actually build confidence. They build self-esteem. And those shifts, confidence is a skill. Most people don't recognize that. Most people think, oh, confidence is just something you're born with. Oh, look at him. He's always been so confident. Ever since he was a kid. Most people who have had this trait since they were young are projecting an attitude to protect something else in their ego that they're trying to make sure stays safe. True confidence is a skill. It is a learned skill that you can put through the test by the way you talk to yourself. That's where it starts. The other thing that builds confidence is keeping your word to yourself. So that's integrity, right? It's being able to say, okay, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to wake up every morning and I'm going to have this 1 cup of water on my bedside. And the first thing I do every morning is drink a cup of water, 8 to 16 ounces of water, because I know that's the best way for my gut to get started in the morning. And then I'm going to promise myself I'm going to drink a gallon of water a day. And then you do it, your confidence goes up because your subconscious now starts seeing that your intention is for real, and it's going to do it. The more you do little things like that, the more those bigger things, your subconscious is not going to get in the way. So we have to shift the way we talk to ourselves. So undo that negative critic, become aware of your language and make sure you're using conscious language in the way you speak to yourself. Language matters. We can associate things with simple words. If I said to you, high five, you don't have to think, ooh, did she mean that in a good way? Did she mean that in a bad way? It's automatic. We understand what that language means, and we immediately know that we're being commended, we're being cheered on, something good. If you've ever practiced the high five in the mirror, the Mel Robbins high five challenge, you'll know. It's amazing because our bodies immediately get those endorphins that we like because we're cheering ourselves on. So that language is something that you can consciously change and then start interrupting those negative thought patterns. Most of us would never talk to somebody else, nor would we allow someone in our family, our loved ones, to be talked to the way we talk to ourselves. So we need to get that in check. It's not okay. And it's okay that it became a pattern. It became a pattern because it was a way of protecting you, but it's now time to understand that that's no longer a way of serving you. All right. So the G in laugh is to give yourself permission to take time to yourself. So mostly this is called self-care, right? We don't give ourselves permission. And I know this personally. I can speak from a woman's point of view that this, to me, when I work with women, this tends to be bigger because culturally and societally, women have been the caretakers and the gatekeepers of their families. And our nurturing nature lends itself to caring for others before we care for ourselves. And there is nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with taking care of other people and doing and fulfilling whatever it is that fills you up as a role in your femininity. But the piece that I want you to remember with self-care is that you have to give yourself permission to do that for you too, right? It's not to say, oh, me first, and I'm not going to take care of these people out here. It's to say, I'm going to take care of you people because I love you and you're my people, but I'm going to take care of me too. And we deserve that. And if we don't do that, We do the proverbial trying to pour from an empty cup. It doesn't work. You get exhausted, you get burnt out, you get spent. And what happens to you is when you don't take care of yourself, eventually your body says, well, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to stop, and you're going to have to do it. So I met someone who had cancer, and when she was diagnosed with cancer, she looked at it and said, oh, well, now I get to stop. Well, maybe if you'd stopped before, you would have had more opportunity to recognize signs and to do preventive care. I'm not saying it would have stopped you from getting something. What I'm saying is, let's not wait till our bodies force us to stop. Let's look at that and go, hey, it's okay for me to take care of myself, to rest. One of the most important things that our bodies need is rest. It is where all the processes happen. Our bodies, when we are sleeping, we think, oh, we're sleeping, nothing's happening. It's almost, I've heard people say, I'll sleep when I die. Oh, yes, you will. And it might come sooner than later if you're not sleeping. So think about this in the sense of every function that happens in your body is rebooted, repaired, and restored while you sleep. That's how important sleep is. Every function, brain function, all the organs, this gut connection to our brain, it has an impact on hormonal output. It's so super important. But sleep is hard to get when you're stressed and you're not taking time for yourself. So find the place to take time for yourself. And the H is heart yourself. There's a difference between self-care and self-love. Self-care is actions that you take, and those actions prove to you that you love you. Try to say that fast. Prove to you that you love you, right? The self-care is proof. It is building into that the proof that you're capable of loving yourself. And when you love yourself, when you really get to that place where you love yourself, you will start to understand again who you are, where your boundaries are, and how you want to move about in the world. You will start feeling at home within yourself if you're capable of getting through these and getting to that place of self-love. So those are the 5 steps. I'm going to go through them real quick again. Welcome, Monica. I'm going to go through them real quick again so that you just have a synopsis. And then I'd love to hear anybody from the audience get up and talk about this, especially forgiveness, which is kind of something I'd like to chat on today. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. But the 5 keys, okay, with the acronym of LAUGH: let go, which addresses the area of forgiveness, but mostly this is for you, disconnecting from what was done to you. It's letting go of the anger, letting go of the resentment, letting go of failed expectations. Okay. A, attitude of gratitude. U, undo the negative critic, the negative self-talk that's going on in a loop in your head. G, give yourself permission to take time for yourself. Self-care. Literally, take care of yourself. And H, heart yourself. Love yourself, truly. If you've ever done mirror work and you can sit in front of the mirror and say, I love you. I really, really love you. I love you, Deanna. Just try that in the morning. Try that tonight before you go to bed. See how it feels when you look at yourself in the eye and you say those words to you. And if you've ever done that and you want to share your experience with that, that's good too, because I would love to hear it. So on this topic of forgiveness, I know I went through a lot of things and we're going to go into deeper detail, but I don't know if anybody would like to get up here and talk about this, because the topic of forgiveness and what that really truly means when I look at forgiveness, again, like I said, it's not a matter of exonerating people. It's not condoning actions of the people who hurt you. It's not even forgetting, because we can forgive people, but if you forget, then generationally, we're likely to repeat patterns, especially when it's traumatic patterns. So we're not even talking about forgetting, but what you have to do, because sometimes these people don't deserve, right, the exoneration. They deserve to sit in jail and stay in jail for the things that they've done. Okay? We're not talking about that. That type of forgiveness, biblical forgiveness, is something outside of our hands. It's in somebody else's hands. It's not ours. Okay? But the forgiveness that you and I can accomplish is the cleansing of your soul, of that bitterness, of the thinking or dwelling on what might have been, the resentment that might exist because of that, the anger at what you shouldn't have had to go through. But I want you to think about this. The person who may have done treacherous things to you is not worried about you. You're carrying around this, and they've moved on with their life. And this is eating away at you, and it literally is killing you. So finding your way to letting this go is a very key component to being able to remove that clutter from yourself so that you have space to be free to do some soul searching about feeling at home inside of your own body, feeling at home within yourself, feeling like you're building yourself up to being a whole person, and knowing who you are. Knowing who you are. Because when you've been through these types of things, you really start to lose who you are. You lose hope. You lose agency, which is that belief in yourself. So it's really a big deal. And so this is why, for me, forgiveness was first. So when I went through some of those things that I describe, an 18-year abusive marriage that I didn't end, he ended it. We could talk forever about even just those modalities, about why you stay in situations, how you were groomed, what makes a person go and stay. But leaving that situation and having an uncle, a brother-in-law who steps in and says, "Oh, I'm gonna, just be the male role model for your kids. Just be there. My kids were teenagers, and here, I'll take your son to work with me. It'll help him pay his insurance. It'll help him pay for his cell phone," and introducing drugs and manipulating them and eventually molesting my daughter. Now, how do I forgive that? This is what I worked on for an entire year. What I said was I wanted to work on gratitude. How can I have gratitude for things that went bad? But what I found out that I needed to work on to get to that, I couldn't get to that because I had these things blocking me from being able to move forward. I had this anger, this righteous indignation. It wasn't that I was wrong. It was righteous indignation, but I was holding on to that as a front so I didn't have to face what I was needing internally, which ultimately was forgiving myself. Because when I went through the process of saying, okay, I can say I can say to this person, Sam, I forgive you for being a jerk, sick, crazy individual, and I will never have anything to do with you, but you also are not taking up any space in my life. Bye. Hope you get better, but if you do, I won't ever know because you will never have a connection to me. So that's a form of forgiveness. That's a form of being able to release that person from my life so that I didn't have to think about it anymore. But the problem was I only had partial freedom to move forward because the truth of the matter was that behind all of that external bitterness, resentment, and righteous indignation, internally, I really felt like I failed to protect my children, which means I needed to forgive myself. And I needed to learn and understand what in the world made all of this possible. What was it? What in my upbringing? What was it that I missed? What was it that made all of this situation possible? And until I could turn inward to that part of forgiveness, which was much harder, by the way, but it was about being able to say to myself that I was doing the best that I could as a single parent to teenagers with no support and no one around. When I say no support, that's financially. I had family around supporting me emotionally. No support from their dad. So when I was going through this, I was also dealing with my own stuff. And then there was all this other stuff going on too. And sometimes we're just doing our level best. And instead of being so hard on ourselves or deflecting that and holding on to bitterness, anger, and resentment as though I had the right to do that, until I let all of that go, I couldn't even face myself. Once that came full circle and I started facing myself, I was able to have conversation with my children about that very topic. And opening communication is the beginning of awareness and the beginning of healing. I don't care what situation you're in. We just came from Monica's show, if you were in there, talking about equality and equity, right? About how far have we really come from Martin Luther King's time and the civil rights movement. The only way you heal is by opening up honest communication and conversation around the thing that needs to be healed. For me, in my situation, inside of my trauma, that was me saying to my kids, I don't know how you don't resent me and aren't angry at me for what I feel like was a failure on my part as a parent. They don't have that view at all. And when they give me their view, it honestly helps me to see the things that I actually was doing and the things that I did do correctly, like immediately take action and have this person arrested and removed from our lives. Like, it's not all wrong. It's not all black and white. But the thing is that once I was able to approach that, I could breathe. I could say, oh, you know what? I am grateful that I have amazing, strong kids who are resilient. Are they perfectly healed? No, we're never perfectly healed, ever. Our traumas come up in phases in our lives. But are they amazing, resilient kids who I have this very close relationship with and our family is healing because of my ability to approach this and communicate this? Yeah, I have a lot of gratitude for that. I don't have to be grateful for the thing that happened to me, but I can't undo the things that happened in the past. I can be grateful for the way we've learned and handled and grown from that. So there's always something you can take from any circumstance. It's easy to be grateful for the things that are easy and good. It's easy to be grateful for the job that you love. How can you be grateful in everything? Because if you find your way and you start changing to that attitude of gratitude, you're going to realize that your frequency goes up, and the more you look for it, the more you see it. It's like counting blue cars, right? It's about that car you go to buy and you go, oh, I really want this blue, whatever, truck. I don't ever see anybody with this blue truck. But the minute you look at the blue truck, everybody around you is driving the blue truck. And you're like, what is happening? They were always there. You told your brain what you wanted it to focus on, and now it's seeing what's always been there. So if you practice gratitude, the same thing happens. But it's really difficult to get to that gratitude in everything if you don't have a way of letting go of the things that are blocking you and standing in your way. And for me, forgiveness was a big part of that. So that's why I say that for me, that was my first step. Some people go, I'm going to tap into gratitude and I'm going to focus on it so much that it's going to make me able to forgive. It's going to move me in a way that my energy, my levels are better, and I'm more open to forgiveness. That's okay too. Because it doesn't work the same for all of us. We're all very different, and the way we process things are different. The way we internalize things are different. So I don't know if anybody here wants to jump up on the stage. If you guys have anything to say about forgiveness, I would love to hear about it, or any of the 5 keys, if this was beneficial, if this helps at all. I'd love to hear from you guys. If not, I can just keep talking, because I'm really good at it. So I got this picture, and I'm going to show it to you because it is a picture that I had saved that to me was something that really, I think, the name of it was Forgiveness, and it depicts forgiveness. Let me see if I can get it to a size that we can see on here. But this is, to me, how we handle, or we bring ourselves. You've ever heard of a 20-second hug? That to me, this picture was just so profound when I saw it, and just with that label of forgiveness, that it moved me. The colors, the holding up of somebody, just holding them up until they're able to stand. Somebody that feels like they did something so wrong, and the other person says, it's okay, I get it, you're not perfect, and they give you that forgiveness. Have you ever been given forgiveness on the receiving end of it? Because we're not perfect, so we're going to do things wrong, we're going to get it wrong, and we're going to need it. We're going to need it at times. And sometimes, most of the time, you need to be able to give it to yourself. So looking in that mirror and being able to say that you love yourself and that you forgive yourself. There's a prayer, you guys can go look it up. It's a prayer, a chant. It's a tribal thing that was done in Hawaii. It's part of what they use in the Hawaiian tribes to keep peace among the tribal members, but also for members to be able to keep peace, inner peace as well. And it started out person to person, but it grew into being able to hold on to inner peace. And the prayer or the chant or the saying, however you want to look at it, it goes like this. It goes, I'm sorry. I forgive you. I love you. I thank you. And again, this is something you can say to yourself. You can say it to yourself in the mirror. You can say it as part of a meditation. I usually do this 3 times when I'm doing it in a meditation with a group. I've guided this in part of a meditation. We had a women's retreat last weekend, and we did this in a breath work and meditation. And then we sat in those feelings during a sound bath. And I don't know if you've ever experienced a sound bath, but there are frequencies for each chakra in your body. There's 7 bowls and 7 frequencies. And forgiveness oftentimes is in your chest, in your heart chakra. And being able to let go is in that chakra. But if you're angry about it, or if you're dealing with anger and bitterness and fear and resentment, that sits in your solar plexus chakra. And when you play those frequencies along with this, internalizing this mantra, this chant, it really helps to release that caught up energy that you may have in your body. So I'll say it one more time, just in case some of you would like to have it. You can look it up online too. It's called Ho'oponopono. The problem is, if you are not familiar with Hawaii, there's a lot of vowels in their words. So you may not know how to spell it when you try to look it up. But it's called Ho'oponopono. And it's 4 things that you say to yourself. It's, I'm sorry. I forgive you. I love you. I thank you. When you close your eyes and you say that to yourself the first time, you're not going to believe yourself, right? Parts of it are going to get in the way. And you're going to be like, this is stupid. What am I doing? Trust that process. Trust that process and say it to yourself 3, 4, 5 times, however many times it takes to sound that into your bones till it rises up in you. Most people, when I do this and I guide them with this, there are tears. And when I work with more than one person at a time in a group setting, or I've had mom and daughter settings, when you're dealing with people who have to forgive one another and doing this in a meditation and saying this to one another and then saying this to yourself, it's very powerful. It's very powerful. Language is powerful. So we have to be conscious of it, and we have to use it to our advantage. We have to know it and be super aware. Hey, Chris, just welcoming you. I haven't talked to everybody in the new year. It feels weird. It's only my 2nd show for the new year. So again, if anybody wants to come up and talk on this topic, you're more than welcome. If not, what I'd like to do is say thanks for anybody who's here listening in the audience. We have some people on the World Wide Web. Thank you. There may be some people listening on YouTube Live, even though I never promote that. Got 12 followers over there. But I just want to say that I appreciate this, and I appreciate you being here, because you being here and sticking out and listening to this show is saying to yourself that you're worth this time. Just this little bit of time that you took to learn something new, and maybe take a piece of that or all of it and go, okay, how can I put this into practice in my life? Okay. So that's really it. That's all I have for you guys today. So if you guys don't want to pop up, it's okay. I'm going to close out the show. I like to say to you guys, I see you and you are beautiful. So until next time, shine on.